I have mixed feelings. I mean, on the one hand, I think the pillars of the message, the three pillars, were smart for SAP. And the sustainability one's always the most difficult one. How do you balance global good with business? Their tagline on it wasn't too bad. Take care of the top line, the bottom line, and the green line.
I was looking for Tom Hanks to come out and go the Green Mile.
I think they emphasized the supply chain side of things, and that is at the same time their greatest strength as a company. They missed a huge amount of opportunities. Christian's been keynoting for 3 years. All his keynotes never talk about CX per se. If CRM is the world's largest software component, and CX even is ultimately, if you incorporate CRM into it as an aspect, then it's even bigger, and you're not focused on it in some way. That's a fundamental error. And you're also dissing your own business unit, really. It's a shame. And SAP needs to really figure that one out once and for all, because 3 straight years of that is not acceptable, really. So that's the biggest negative to me. The other, I'll call it negative, is the lack of entertainment value. I didn't think they did very well on that.
In that perspective, it felt like it actually took a step back from last year. Even the way it ended, it's like, we're done. I mean, I think they're very strong with the message in terms of what they wanted to focus on. And I think it's a strength of theirs, sustainability and supply chain. Tie it with that green line piece. I think that makes a lot of sense. You did a great job of focusing on that. If I was on the SAP CX team, I'd be disappointed. All the hard work and effort, it just feels like none of that is presented. Did he say CX at all?
No,
even the two letters brought together.
Nope.
And I don't think it would have taken a lot. Everybody's talking about supply chain and logistics. And so it makes total sense to focus on that, especially when that's one of your strengths. But then not to at least tie CX to that, the impact that all that supply chain can have on the customer experience. That seems like a pretty significant missed opportunity. All the other big players, the first 2 letters that come out of their keynote are C and X. I remember the last keynote. One of the things that Christian did talk about was sustainability, but also equality, inclusion, and how that played a role in that. I don't think he mentioned that at all, which was to me a huge step back. It was great to see
Etosha Thurman.
Yeah, Etosha. It was. She did a great job of presenting, and I was glad to see her. But they didn't. Now, and maybe this once again is kind of like how Adrian said, well, we didn't call it out, but it was a part of it. I think you got to call certain things out, or at least make it more significant. And so when you talk about equality and inclusion one year, and then a year later, it's not even mentioned, and that causes me to wonder why.
Well, usually the answer we get on things like why you left FCX, why you didn't talk about equality and inclusion, there's only so much time in the keynote, and I get that. But you can interweave things very well. You don't have to make it exclusive segment. Build it in, right? Because ultimately, it's part of one way or the other. It's either your product DNA or your corporate DNA, your cultural DNA. They have to be expressed in a way that comes across in an executive keynote.
I wonder what it felt like in the auditorium.
I don't know.
Because now,
clapping.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear a lot. Now that you're bringing people back, you got to fight the feeling of just trying to go back to, we'll just go back to how we did it before. But you still have this virtual audience, and you got to think about them both even more now than ever. From the virtual side, it didn't pop. It didn't grab you. Adobe 2 years ago was, I'm a hostage. But each year since then, it's gotten way better from a virtual experience.
Yeah.
This did not feel like a step up from last year. And maybe that's because the focus was split between having a physical Sapphire versus a completely virtual one. Adobe this year was totally virtual still. Pega, which is coming up, that's virtual still. Maybe there's going to be a bit of a struggle getting back to doing a physical event and all that entails, and still remembering that there's a virtual audience that now it has certain expectations too.
And it's actually typically going to be larger than the physical event by a fair amount, by quite a bit. Yes, we all want to make everything cool in person, but the virtual audience needs to be, let's say, their senses need to be bombarded a bit.
The Accenture discussion, that just went too long.
Way too long.
You know,
no disrespect to the Accenture CEO. She's a very good speaker, but just too much.
And the ending was very anticlimactic. It was just a strange kind of ending.
Yeah. Usually you break.
Yeah, you take a little break, have some music.
10 minutes.
That was an hour and a half. I would have preferred a break where if I'm sitting in the audience, I don't want to just, go right into another thing that could be pretty long. It sounds like overall messaging was really good.
Yes.
You can walk away with knowing exactly what they're focused on and why and how they're gonna, kind of take that on. Did you feel any emotional pull at all?
Nope.
I mean,
not for a second.
Do you like to say you might not be able to name a specific thing, but you just remember the feeling you had?
Yeah, that's the most
there
important
was no
thing
feeling here.
No, nothing. Part of messaging that resonating is that you emotionally attach to the messaging because of however it's presented and what's going on, not just with it, but around it. And that wasn't there. That said, to your point, the messaging was solid, and and if their only purpose was to just get across where they're going, they did that. And do I like where they're going? I do, with the caveat of, given that you and I are both very much in the world of customer facing, I don't know where they're going with CX at this point from a corporate standpoint, because they gave no indication. And yet, thank God that Adrian was on this to at least suss out some of the things that Julia was presenting and what lay underneath, because that was important. And
but we're lucky he was there to do it for us.
Exactly.
No, he's not there to do it for all the other folks that were.
Hopefully that just means everybody will watch this at least up to Adrian's comment. Then they can leave. Right. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Again, to your point, good job on messaging. Got work to do on evoking kind of the feelings that need to be associated with those things and on CX, but the message itself absolutely focused on the strength of supply chain, the global message of balancing, the balanced message of, yes, it's good for your business, it's good for the world.
Green line.
The green line, top line, bottom line, really, really good metaphorical way to talk about it. Also, congrats on the evolution of RISE and of the SAP Business Network, which is something I think is a fundamental strength of the company around communities and networks. They're really good at that and have been for many, many, many years.